obviously he was writing for WWE during the ratings peak when I guess you guys had rating at one time in the eights, and you worked with them in TNA over the years. I know he had some bad ideas like the Kennel from Hell match, which you've already talked to me about, but what's your opinion of Russo overall, good and bad?
Well, I think Russo was definitely very much a part of the success of WWE at that time. Um, Vince McMahon's formula was that he focused on only 4 or 5 guys, and then the whole show, the whole 2-hour show, was pretty much just those 4 or 5 guys. Where if you switched over to WCW, what was really, besides the timing, you know, and the belief, because the key thing that made WCW successful was at that time people really genuinely believed that WWF was invading WCW when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall first showed up there. That was what lit that whole fuse, was that belief that, oh my God, these guys work for WWF. What are they doing here? And they're just invading. Um, because you didn't have the internet with people stooging it off. So the audience really bought into it. And that was what got the ball rolling. But then, with Bischoff going out and acquiring like the Lucha guys and Benoit and Malenko, and so you had a variety on the show that when you tuned in, you got to see a lot of different feel and style and different personalities, and it was fresh and it was different. Where in WWF it was very stale at that time. You had the same 5 or 6 guys that were the main focus of the show, and everybody else meant nothing. And Vince Russo was very instrumental in creating ideas that made everyone on the show from start to finish mean something. Everyone was a star to some degree. And my contention's always been that if you spend as much money as you do to go watch a wrestling show, there's going to be that one main guy that you really wanted to see, but the rest of that show, everybody that comes through that curtain better mean and entertain you to some degree. If not, it's a waste of time. The days of people spending enormous amounts of money to really just see one person or one match, even in boxing and UFC, that, I've heard lots of people say on a boxing or UFC card, oh, they've got so-and-so against so-and-so on the main event, but this undercard's the shits. I'm not going to sit through it. You know, they won't go. If it's a live event, they won't go. And if it's a pay-per-view or something, they'll just buy, you know, that last match. They won't sit through the undercard, you know, and that's bad business, because 9 times out of 10 they won't buy the pay-per-view at all, because if they're not going to buy it from the start, they're not going to wait. They'll probably forget or just not care. Well, I'll just watch it on YouTube or something like that. Whereas if you have a great undercard along with a great main event, then people are invested and they want to watch the whole thing to get to the end. And that helps them motivate their friends and family, saying, hey, you got to come over. We'll make a night of it, be a party. You can watch this, or, hey, let's go out. Let's go to, they're having this at the arena tonight. And Russo was really good at doing that, of creating storylines that weren't just solely focused around 4 or 5 guys, but were focused around the entire roster to some degree. And everybody had a unique space and a unique place. And he was very creative in his utilization of the talent. And the same goes for TNA. He took that process a lot there. But Vince McMahon and Vince Russo worked very well because they balanced each other out. Vince McMahon was very detached and has obviously had lost a little bit of touch of popular society, where Vince Russo was very tuned in to popular pop culture and modern society and all that, and he would infuse that into Vince McMahon. But Vince McMahon always knew what he was selling, which was at the end of the day, it was the finish. It was the fact that it was a competitive situation. I've had, I'm not speaking out of turn. Vince Russo and I've had these conversations before where I'll make the statement that the only thing that's fake about professional wrestling is just the outcome. And he does not understand it. He does not grasp that concept. The idea that the only thing we're really selling is just that who wins and who loses. He thinks that it's all fake because you made it all up. And that's not the case, because the only thing that you're making up is why you're doing it. You know, I screwed this guy's girlfriend. Well, now the audience hates me that much more and wants to see this guy not just beat my ass, but beat me, win, so he can get justice, so he can prove that he's the better man. He can get the one that finally at the end. Do you understand? And without that concept, without selling properly that understanding, you don't have anything. And Vince Russo we've had this conversation numerous times. He can't understand that. And he thinks like stipulation matches, cage matches, barbed wire match, Texas death match, whatever you want to call them, he doesn't understand that stipulations are enacted to level the playing field. Case in point, if babyface wrestler is wrestling a heel wrestler, and you as the audience, you can clearly see throughout the match, babyface wrestler is better. He's going to win. And just as it looks like he's about to win, the heel wrestler intentionally, purposely throws him over the top rope and gets disqualified. Now, the audience is upset because they know the babyface wrestler could have and would have and should have won. Well, what do? Well, now we come back with a no disqualification match. The one tool that the heel wrestler had in his box to prevent him losing and losing face was getting disqualified. He saved himself. He didn't want to do it. That's why it waited so long throughout the match. And when he was truly in dire situations, he did it. Because let's keep in mind, the wrestlers are prize fighters. If they don't win, they don't get paid. Okay? And that's why I try to communicate to the wrestlers themselves. If this were real, not a shoot, but if it were real, okay, the psychology behind what you're doing, the why you're doing it, is that if you don't win tonight, you can't pay rent. How aggressive would you be if your ability to eat and to be able to keep clothes on your back and a roof over your head was completely dependent on whether you won or lost? How aggressive would you be?
Very aggressive. You'd be
Correct.
fighting life.
And the whole idea behind wrestling, there's only two predominant ways to win, or pinfall and submission, and 99.9% of the time, those take place on the mat, not standing up. So why would you ever, unless you did something or the guy did something to you, and you showed me via your performance to the audience to make me understand, why would you ever knock somebody down and then bend over and pick them back up so you could do another bigger move? It makes no sense. That'd be like watching UFC, and there are two predominant ways to win, which are knockout and submission, and the guy knocks one guy down, but instead of ground and pounding him or grabbing a submission, he bends over, picks him back up so he can do another move. It's retarded. It makes no sense. And everybody today does it.
Yeah.
So Russo doesn't understand the concept, and he doesn't understand the stipulations that it is to balance or increase the odds of the fact that the babyface wrestler is going to get a fair chance to win and defeat the heel wrestler. Got disqualified, now no disqualification. Looks like now the heel's getting a little more offense, but again, you can clearly see he's going to lose. Just when it looks like he's about to lose, here he goes, reaches in his trunks, pulls out brass knucks, knocks the babyface out. Well, now we got to go to a tape fist match where now the odds are now again evened, and both guys have, their brass knuckles match where both hands are taped, and now it looks like the babyface is going to finally get his justice. Here comes the buddy, jumps him, beats him up on the behalf of the heel. Well, now we go to a tag match because now the babyface has to get a partner. The whole purpose of all of this is that couldn't tell you how many times, and I directly, and again, I'm not talking out of turn. I would go to Russo, we'd show up at TV, and all of a sudden Mickey James and Victoria are in a cage match. I'm like, what happened the last TV that I missed? That they're now in a cage. They didn't even wrestle each other. And his thought process is, if somebody's flipping through the channels and they happen to see it, they see a cage match, they're going to be more interested in and more likely to stay and watch that cage match than they are if they just see two people in the ring. Same with a ladder match or an Ultimate X match. He'd just throw them out there, and it was never that he sold the why that match was happening. And that ultimately is what really draws. It's not the match itself. It is the why behind the match, the heat, the need to see an outcome. And the only way we determine it in a fair enough manner is through this particular stipulation match. And he never got that. And I don't think, quite honestly, that his thought process ever bore fruit. I don't think that at any point in time did it ever generate a massive spike in ratings and then maintain them going forward. You know, of, oh, well, somebody's just flipping through the channels and they happen to see a cage match. Oh my God, this is cool. But there's no why behind it, so it never retained anybody that he may have got.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.